the thought of losing the restaurants to me is like losing a family member, and although it hurts and you don't know what to do at that point, you also learn to adapt and manage those situations. You don't want to let people down more than ever.
This is the Deep in the Weeds podcast. I'm Anthony Huckstep. Not all restaurants are alike, but the pandemic forced all hospitality businesses into the same model, takeaway. For many, simply switching to takeaway just wasn't a reality. How has the pandemic played out for operators with multiple and often different venues? Brent Savage is one of Australia's best chefs and restaurateurs. Together with Nick Hildebrandt, they became affably known as the Bentley Boys, who built a restaurant group of vastly different award-winning establishments, the likes of Bentley Restaurant Bar, Monopole, Yellow, and Cirrus. Brent, how are you going?
Good, Anthony. How are you, mate?
I'm good, thank you. You've got 4 restaurants and they're all recognised as, some of Australia's best. You spend a long time in the industry and built up this group. How did it feel in that period when the pandemic sort of arrived and the industry was forced into sort of closure except for takeaway?
Yeah, look, for me, it was quite overwhelming, particularly in the beginning. Obviously, there was, although the government did get there in the end, they were got off to a bit of a slow start, and which was pretty scary. I guess for us, we felt pretty. I guess alone is not quite the right word, but we were definitely feeling like unsupported at that stage, and it was really nice. Well, I guess one of the things that was really nice, lots of our peers and mates in the industry, we were in close contact with, which sort of brought people together, which was one of the real positives out of this and still exists today. So it's been good to touch base with lots of people that you normally wouldn't be in such close contact with, or usually you're catching up once a year at the awards or whatever. But I think we all sort of chatted with each other and tried to feel each other out as to what the best way forward was, which was typical of hospitality, I guess.
What was that period like? What were the immediate decisions that you and Nick made in regards to the businesses?
I mean, yeah, you sort of felt it with the weeks leading in. We saw sales dropping. We saw corporate. One of our, obviously Bentley is smack bang in the middle of the city. We have a lot of corporates, which is our bread and butter, really, going into doing group bookings on a daily basis. That we saw those reservations dropping off first. Which was quite a, daunting prospect in itself, and then the onflow from there was the other restaurants being affected just with general a la carte, and eventually having such little patrons that it wasn't worth opening, and making those decisions to actually get to the point where we're going, no, this isn't worth it anymore. It took a bit. It seemed to be, so much changed on a day-to-day basis that it took. It felt like months, but it was only a week or two. You know what I mean? So yeah, I guess the hardest decisions that we actually had to make was, letting go our staff, the people who support us day in, day out, besides the our best guests, our customers, but the people closest to us every day are our staff, and that was a really, really difficult conversation to have, to say, hey, we've got no work at the moment, and at that point we didn't really have any way of supporting them through government or anything. Job Seeker hadn't really taken place, and nor had JobKeeper. So it was sort of an empty conversation where it's like, hey guys, we're we've got no work, we've got no customers. What are we going to, until further notice, you're being stood down, and that was heartbreaking. And seeing some of the reactions, and particularly with people that we've nurtured through sponsorship or through, just some of the young internationals that we have working for us are absolute amazing people, and to have to explain to them that we knew that the government eventually would have to support Australian citizens, but we didn't really have anything to offer the internationals, which was really difficult.
You've spent a lot of time with Nick building this group, that came from Bentley when it was in Surrey Hills, and you've got 4 restaurants now, and it's quite a big group. I remember last year when you won Chef of the Year, and we had a conversation about how happy you were about that for your team and what it meant for them, because, times were a little bit tough, and you got some great acknowledgements then. Like, how did it feel having all of that sort of taken away with so much uncertainty? Like, how have you felt in this period?
The acknowledgements are always amazing, and it's nice to be recognised amongst your peers and amongst your friends and all that. It didn't. I mean, as far as things being taken away goes, without sounding arrogant or anything, but like I mean, the awards were the last thing on my mind. It was more about saving the restaurants and having our lives taken away. Our lifestyles taken away was very daunting. I guess, we really wanted to come out on the other side of this, and making sure that we took steps to come out on the other side was the most important things that we could do. I guess the thought of losing the restaurants to me is like losing a family member, and although it hurts, and you don't know what to do at that point, you also learn to adapt and manage those situations. Or you have to, more so than you learn to, but you actually have to do it. There's no, you've got no choice, and you've got so many obligations hanging out there that you don't want to let people down more than ever.
So with the sort of letting go of staff and the closures of the business temporarily, what did you put in place then after that to sort of trigger some trade with the various businesses? Because your restaurants are quite different, even though they all operate at such a high level. What initiatives did you put in?
Yeah, absolutely. Like we obviously needed time to absorb what's just happened and work out a way forward. And I think the obvious thing was, the first thing that was so obvious to us, we had a cool room not full of food, but there was quite a bit of product that we had in amongst 4 cool rooms in the restaurants. We had a lot of stuff that could be produced and on sold as meals or just as raw produce. And one of the first things we did was offload that through a little market we ran at Yellow. We had a lot of vegetables hanging around, so we packaged those up and sold those off, and that did quite well for us. And then which then sparked the next idea was to keep that going. We have access to these amazing suppliers and amazing produce, and they that generally don't get to the general public that easily. And we thought that it was an opportunity to keep on giving to our customers, and obviously by doing that, it was also supporting our a percentage of our staff members in keeping them busy. A lot of people in that time wanted to be busy. They didn't want to be sitting at home, and it's typical of hospitality crowd that they don't want. Most of them have ADD or close to it, so they need to be kept busy, and that's what we tried to do, is keep people positive and keep them keep them busy, and further, I guess then we started Monopole Market, so we were selling some wine and produce out of Monopole. Was the second thing that we did, and there was a few ready-made meals there, and we busted out some old school pastry and did some tarts and things like that. And yeah, that's been going ever since, which we're really proud of what we're doing over there. And then the next step was to adapt our offering to get it to people's homes, and that took a bit of time, and it was pretty much like opening a new restaurant. Really, we had to give it a lot of, we gave it a lot of thought. A lot of the packaging took time to get together. I thought it would be a relatively quick project to do, but as it turned out, it took us a good 2-3 weeks to get that up and running, and it was a shitload of work, a shitload more than what I anticipated.
Do you see these models and new businesses that you've been forced to launch? Do you see them evolving and continuing down the track when the restaurants open again?
Look, in theory, it would be a fantastic thing to say and do is to continue it, but the logistics behind it are quite challenging. To think that really they need their own, these mini business models that we've set up. To be able to make those business models viable, they would really need more attention than what we can give them at the moment, and they would need their own space. Prepackaged food takes a lot of space really to actually make it, and to do that well, and to do it at a HACCP standard. There's a lot that should happen has to happen in behind it, and so we're really conscious that not to overextend ourselves, because we're also focusing on trying to get the restaurants back open again, especially now that the bans have been lifted and things like that.
You and Nick have created quite a formidable team over many years. Has this situation changed your relationship and set you perhaps on a different path moving forward for the group?
Oh, I definitely. It's almost a circuit breaker that we needed. You know what I mean? Like, you sort of get into these habits, I guess, of continually running things the way they were, and providing growth for people. And although we're only a small group, people are lots of our staff have been with us for a long time, and they're looking for new challenges all the time, and you almost sort of create opportunity for people to grow into. But for me, it was a real reality check as to how easily you create fat in your business for maybe it's not so necessary. And when it came down to it, getting back to the core business, which of producing food and selling it, it just makes you think differently going forward. I think.
Why did you get into the food industry in the first place?
I guess I think most people know the story that in lots of ways. I grew up in Lithgow. There's not much on offer. It's sort of like guns and coal mines are the go-to industries there, and I felt neither of those were for me. And at the time, my sister was cooking. She was a chef before I was. She was cooking in the Blue Mountains, and essentially I've basically started washing dishes for her and the places that she was working in, and on it went from there, and just it was sort of a natural cycle into becoming a cook.
That's a long way back from sort of what you ended up doing in Bentley, where you sort of bended and tested the realms of gastronomy, certainly in the early days, and then moved that forward for our culinary landscape. Has this experience changed your perception of your cooking and what you might do on the other side of this when the restaurant's open?
Yeah, look, I think that those perceptions have been changed. Like we're constantly evolving as a group and as cooks, and me, you know, as to what we want to achieve. As the years go by, your goals are, you're always sort of setting new goals for yourself, and what it would take to actually achieve those things is I guess evolving. Like as I said, like it's very much evolving, and I think now more than ever, it's getting back to basics and making sure that we do the little things well, and not overcomplicating the situation or the restaurants, particularly with the way that labour laws are these days. Like there's just no room to overcomplicate things and make extra labour unnecessarily. And I think that's a reflection of what we do in a day-to-day on a day-to-day basis with our restaurants and our food.
With the changes in the laws and the government attempting to open up the industry in our society, and stage one is activated now where you can have 10 guests in a dining room, what's the plans for the group, and how are you going to open those up again, and when?
I guess, yeah, look, I think these are really positive steps, and for us, although we didn't jump on the bandwagon immediately to get open, we wanted to give ourselves a little bit of time, and also just sort of being cautious not to go too early, I guess, but just the communication that's needed, and the cost involved of opening for 10 people is, and then hopefully growing to 20, 30, 40, whatever, and getting back to normal, it has to be really cautious, I think, and we are working towards it. And for us to open 4 restaurants in one go is just not a reality whatsoever. Like it's, at the end of the day, again, it's going to be an absolute shitload of work to get back, everyone get back into rhythm. And we've lost a lot of staff, so due to whether they're international or they've decided to go home, or a change. It was like I said, it was a circuit breaker, and people have decided to change direction in their lives, or whatever it's brought on for people. We're probably going to be a bit short of staff than what we started out with, and but we're going to start out small, and we're going to open yellow, and do the 20 covers a night, or whatever we can fit in, just to get rhythm back, to keep people get the teams back working and back into the rhythm of normality, I guess. And so we'll do one at a time, and hopefully come out with a stronger product than we went into with.
How are you feeling about the opening, and this sort of chance to sort of get back on track?
Yeah, I'm feeling really positive, actually. I think that it's this is when everything closed down. I think everyone was sort of wondering, well, will we ever open up? Will we be able to ever open up? And so on. And it's also been an opportunity to fix a few brokens. Like we can take this time and think about what wasn't working, and eliminating it from what we do going forward. And I guess in the beginning we're going to open in a reduced hours capacity, which really sort of puts time back in our hands, which we never had previously. Yeah. So overall, though, I think it's what has to happen. That we all, the economy, restaurants, hopefully. I don't think anyone will come back the same as they were, but the fact to get everyone back to work and back working is what we need to do.
Just moments ago, you said that there's things that you could fix that weren't working with the industry. What do you think are the biggest lessons that you've learnt from COVID, and what are other things that you can change?
I can really, yeah. Obviously, there's broader issues there that I think a lot of people are talking about in the industry, which I think is fantastic, and I think they're issues that need to be talked about and aired, and hopefully fixed, or business models need to be fixed to adapt to them. I guess what I'm referring to there is obviously the industrial relations side of things in our industry has been heavily monitored at the moment, and I don't think there's an easy answer, and I think it comes down to the business models. And we were working on a model which was probably dated in many ways, and you could talk about in that you could talk about the hours that chefs worked. You could talk about the way that the tip system works for the front and back of house, or you could talk about the fact that no one ever really regulated our industry, and then for 20 odd years, and then finally the regulator comes in and says, oh, you're doing it all wrong. But technically, yeah, we may have been doing it wrong, but there was no one there regulating it. You know what I mean? So it was a two-sided story, I guess. And and I think we're probably going to get some consistencies back into our industrial relations going forward, which is great. It's great for the industry. It's just going to mean that everyone's going to have to operate differently, and potentially, some places or some parts of our dining scene may become more expensive to adapt to those costs, because restaurants have always run on a very, very thin margin, and yes, it's probably lent on staff from time to time where it maybe shouldn't have, but really the only person that benefited from that was the customers. It wasn't about ripping. I don't think restaurateurs really benefited from that, and I don't think staff really benefited from it either. I think the only benefits came through was to the attention to detail that our customers got on their plate for a fraction of what they potentially could pay. And in other countries they would have to pay. So it'll be an interest. I think I'm in no way or means flying the flag that restaurants are cheap experiences, because they're not, and I love nothing more than to make them more accessible to more people, because that would be just much better for everybody. But at the end of the day, there's some real costs that sit in behind restaurants, and I don't think they're recognised as much as they could be.
It's been a pretty big period, obviously, for everyone on the planet, and you've had to reevaluate everything. How have you personally felt during this period, and have there been some positives to come out of it for you?
To be really honest, like I've worked harder, or as hard as ever, trying to save the businesses as I did trying to run 4 restaurants. I think it's been a much more stressful period for me. When I first thought about this COVID situations, I thought, oh, you know what, this might be an opportunity to spend time with my girls, or all my kids, including and actually help them do their schoolwork and get more involved in their lives, which I would love to do, because I always feel a bit time poor. But as it turned out, the businesses need more attention than ever, and I spent, that I really had to focus to make sure that we didn't fall over during this period. And so I guess the negative on a personal level was that I didn't actually get to spend as much time with the family as I would have loved to. But on the positive to that is that, talking to you today, we're going to come out on the other side. And I don't think, unless we gave it that much attention, we may not have come out on the other side.
Do you think it'll change the restaurant model on the other side that you do to allow you some more of your own personal space for balance?
I hope so. I really do. But yeah, look, I guess that's definitely the goalpost, and something that we'll be working towards is making sure that everybody, all staff and ourselves, everything's in perspective, and that we're working towards work-life balance, that everybody wants in their workplace, I guess. Yeah.
What do you love about restaurants, and what are you going to appreciate more about restaurants on the other side of this?
That's a good question, but no, of course there's lots of things, but I would really like, recognizing our clientele more and more, and appreciating what they do to support us on a day-to-day basis. Not that ever really leaves your mind, but through this period, we've had so many people reach out to us and support us in all sorts of different ways, and that's been a really nice feeling. And we have we have regulars that come in that live at Cabramatta, and basically we weren't delivering to Cabramatta, but he made sure that he made a big enough order to make it worth our while to go out there, and things like that. Those little bits and pieces just make it makes that people care and people understand that at the moment we're going through a bit of a hard time, and it's not the normal circumstances where it's all hospitality, give. It's like we're actually recipients of that hospitality coming back our way more than ever, I think. Yeah.
Well, you're on the verge of sharing your unique style of hospitality again with the opening of Yellow. How's it going to feel when you open the doors for the first time and guests come in?
Yeah, it's going to be. I'm a bit nervous thinking about it, or not, anxious to think about it. But yeah, look, we're absolutely excited, and we're the kitchen teams that we're painting the kitchen and cleaning it up, and doing a deep clean at the moment. Just before I started talking to you, so it feels good to start to getting the team back together. Having everyone working towards an actual goal of what they were employed to do is it's exciting, and we've been working on menus for Bentley going forward, and that's exciting. So there's a lot of things happening in the background, which is exciting. But it'll be great to welcome people back into the restaurant, and everybody doing what they're supposed to do. People are relaxing and getting good hospitality, and cooks cooking, and waiters looking after people, and sommeliers giving the best wine.
Well, mate, I've always been a fan of what you and Nick bring to Australia's culinary landscape. Very much look forward to eating in your restaurants again. Thanks for catching up with us today, and keep in touch, and good luck with everything.
Thanks, Anthony. It'd be awesome to have you back in the restaurant as well, and look forward to catching up. Cheers, mate.
This is the Deep in the Weeds podcast. I'm Anthony Huckstep. Stay tuned as we share the stories of Australia's hospo community, suppliers and producers in search of hope during this pandemic. Special thanks to executive producer Rob Locke for making this all happen. Follow us on Instagram at Deep in the Weeds Podcast, or email us at podcast@deepintheweeds.com.au. Stay safe and be well.